how his presentation is going to be useful to us uh, once he starts. Joe, go ahead
Yep,
and tell us about you.
sure. So you guys, you don't know me, so I'm going to come off momentarily, just for a moment, as a little bit cocky, and then I'm going to show you who I really am because I'm not cocky. So I'm a multimillionaire. I retired before I was 40 years old from day-to-day operations. My business still pumps out and nets me over $1 million a year in my pocket without working. I practice the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week, and it's worked very well for me. Now, I didn't start that way. I was born in Cuba. I came here on a small boat in 1980 and went straight to California. I grew up in San Francisco, grew up in poverty, hardworking parents. Mom was a physics teacher. That meant she cleaned hotel rooms, right? Because she didn't know the language and she had to start from zero. My dad was an electrician. He fixed people's TVs for very little bit of money back then. So had to grind and figure things out on my own as a kid. And I started making 40 bucks a month in fourth grade, buying little trading cards and reselling them, trading baseball cards, comic books, whatever I could. And then I started doing garage sales where I'd buy stuff at garage sales, take them to flea markets and flip them. If you guys have ever seen Gary Vaynerchuk, he does that. He'll go out and buy stuff at a garage sale, put it on eBay, things like that. That's what I did. Not for fun like he does, but I did it out of necessity. That's how I made my money through high school and right after high school. And then one day I went to a garage sale. Everybody said I got lucky because of this, but I was grinding every single day. I went to a garage sale and I bought some underwear, brand new in a package, jockey underwear. Turns out it was a sales rep for a jockey. These were his leftover samples. I bought them all for $1 each, bought about 550 of them, whatever he had, I bought them all. Took them to the flea market that same day, did really well. Went a couple more times and I ran out. But in the total, I spent $550 and I sold about 3,000 and something dollars. Did really well. I was really happy. I said, there's something here. And I kept digging. All this time, I had one full-time job and a part-time job always. Sometimes I'd have two full-time jobs. So I kept doing that and I'd leave a little window on Sunday to do flea markets. And I'll fast forward all this time. I now own 20 different apparel brands, underwear, swimwear, athletic apparel, and we have 11 Shopify Plus websites. We sell direct to consumer, still do a little bit of wholesale, and I've acquired 10 of my competitors in the underwear, swimwear world, and so now I do that. We have a fulfillment center for other e-commerce websites out of South Florida, where I'm located, and I invest in commercial and residential real estate, and 4 kids, live in South Florida. I've been here for almost 20 years and absolutely love it. And then since October, let's see, today is April. In October, I started a coaching practice because a friend of mine recommended, he kept sending me people. He said, can you mentor them? And I did that for free. I've been doing it for 15 years for free. But he said, I want you to start charging these people. I think they're going to get more out of it. And I started doing that. So now I have this coaching practice that kind of grew overnight, and it'll do 250,000 this year. I did not expect that. I was happily retired, but I'm happy doing it. It's really, I don't do it for the money, but I promised my wife I wouldn't work for free anymore. So I started charging a little bit, but it's encouraging because I'm really changing lives. And I don't just mean their income is going up. I mean, like, I'm getting people to start practicing really healthy habits, like things that I do. I fast, I run long distances. This year I ran my first ultra marathon in January. And then just really good relationship building habits that I'm sharing with people that I work with. And so that's it. That's what I'm up to. And I just, every single day I look at my calendar and there's exactly what I want there to be. I don't do anything that I don't want to do. A lot of that's giving back. A lot of things like this, I really enjoy. So that's who I am.
Well, Joel, thank you so much. And we're both fans of Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week.
Right.
I wish I had your same level of success, but I can't complain either.
Good.
I, I managed to get a lot of freedom. Uh, but here's a thing that, I really would like for you to touch upon. And, you can share with us as much as you feel comfortable sharing. There's a lot of gloom and doom in the media. And, I understand that, we're going through a period of crisis. But in your case, your business is doing much better than usual during this time period. Would you tell us a little bit about what's going on in terms of what you're experiencing business
Yeah.
wise?
So so there's goods and bads. This is the reason for diversifying. So in January, along with a few other entrepreneurs, we bought 2 medical office buildings in Central Florida, very big buildings with all these tenants. things like that aren't doing so good because we had to allow our doctors who are in these offices renting from us some time to make up the money and all that stuff. So there are some bad parts, but it's okay. I mean, we'll be fine. We're just deferring payments till the end of their leases. But my real bread and butter, my e-commerce websites are killing it right now. We're doing, it's like Christmas in April. We are hitting like November numbers right now, which is exciting because we did that in March. Probably had our best March ever this last March. And this April, we're going to close as our best April ever. Um, we had some hiccups, and hopefully I'll share those later on. But yeah, in e-commerce, things are fine. I have a few friends in e-commerce. One sells ammunition, and yeah, and I'm sure you guys have heard that has
Yeah.
exploded. He's hitting seven-figure sales every day, and he's been doing this for months now. He wasn't doing that before. It
Right.
wasn't new. So there are a lot of people doing well. And you said about the news. Last time I watched the news was 5 years ago. That's part of, not that I follow any one program, but coincidentally, that has to do with Tim Ferriss as well. I don't waste time. And to me, sitting down, I haven't sat down and watched TV in 8, 9 years. I do watch documentaries, business things, podcasts, things like that. But I'll usually watch them as I'm about to go to bed. I turn them on, put the sleep timer on for 60 minutes, and I fall asleep within the first 20. So that's all I watch. I don't sit and watch the news because I learned from a very good mentor of mine that all of that is noise. You think you watch CNBC to hear stock tips and advice. It's all noise. The market doesn't do this based on all these thousands, millions of emotions. So I don't listen to any of that noise. I try to create, and I know there's people hurting, and I know there's people sick, and I know a lot of people have died, but I've asked a few people. Some people know people who've died from COVID-19, but I personally don't know any. So it's not that everybody's dying. This isn't the Black Plague of Europe, where 1/3 of the population died in a short time. Remember, the media is there to get us all worked up, so we'll watch, and then they get more ratings. I have people who are friends who are producers in the media. They're having a great time right now. They're all making a lot of money off of your eyeballs. So I'm not into that whole noise following.
Right, right. Actually, I realized that I was the most productive when my TV was out of my bedroom. So I
Absolutely.
kicked my TV out. I actually recently kicked my TV out because I was completely obsessed with what's going on, and I got to prepare. Zombie apocalypse is coming. And again, I'm not making light of very serious situation.
Mhm.
But one thing, and that really, is the challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs, which is how do you remain consistent? How do you remain focused on your goals when everything is pulling your way and telling you, the sky is falling? And maybe the sky is falling, but can we really do anything about it right now? You know,
That's
um,
it. That's it, Mark. I was about to ask you, when you hear all of that, even if it's all true, what are you going to do about it? I'll tell you what my wife and I have done. We've given a lot to charities who specifically can earmark the donations we've made to people who need food and medicine, not because of COVID-19, because of the economic disaster that's happened by freezing the economy. So I can help those people. But me watching the news and getting worked up, I do nothing with that. That does nothing for me.
right. So let's start with we made some promises that we're gonna, uh, ask you specific questions to help entrepreneurs cope with what's going on and hopefully conquer the fear, the challenges that we're going to be facing soon. Since you mentioned the economic crisis, that's it's coming. Actually, it's
Yep.
already here, but it's probably going to get worse. So let's start with uh, how does an entrepreneur? We kind of touch upon that. How does an entrepreneur keep focused on his goals, his aspirations during this time of crisis?
Yeah. Well, years ago, I saw a documentary which I recommend to everybody on the History Channel. It's called The Men Who Built America. And it's
Yes.
about all those people who did great things, right? Whether it's Andrew Carnegie, um, John D. Rockefeller, all those type of guys, um, Vanderbilt. Well, a lot of them did well even when times were tough. In fact, some people, that's when they built their wealth, when times were tough, because that's when you might be the little guy right now, but when the economy really turns and gets rough, The ones who get hit the hardest are the ones on top who have invested in this massive infrastructure for a high touch society, let's say in this case. But now things are going to change. Who can change quicker? Two people tinkering in a garage or this massive multi-billion dollar company? The multi-billion dollar company is a slow moving machine. Two people or one person in a garage can make a change like that. So when I really got going with my apparel company, it was in 2008, right as the economy crashed, and it didn't affect me. I was going to trade shows. Back then I did B2B sales. So I would go to trade shows and yeah, everybody would say, yeah, the economy's horrible, but I kept opening accounts because I was at the bottom. If I opened 5 accounts at a trade show in Vegas, I'd be happy. And then I'd go to Paris and I'd open another 6 accounts. For me, it was great growth. For a big company who's with huge infrastructure, they need massive growth. A little guy didn't need growth. I just needed to keep adding on accounts little by little. So those are just some of the ways that I just, to me, it's all mindset. If you tell yourself, this is it, this is horrible, it's probably going to be horrible because you're going to look for horrible. Everybody says if you buy a red Mustang, you're going to start seeing Mustangs everywhere. If you start looking for what the news is talking about and what they want you to look at, that's all you're going to see. See, I don't see any of that. Every time I hear about the news or whatever's going on, I'm seeing opportunity flags. I'm not seeing red flags. I'm seeing green flags. That's why we've notified every competitor of ours. We've done this for years, but now we've retouched base with all of them and said, we are still in the market. We have dry powder saved and we're ready to acquire. So if you're in the market to get sold, talk to us, right? So that's how I see this as tremendous opportunities.
Right, right. And in terms of on a personal note, coping strategies, things that we can do to remain healthy, mental health.
Yeah. So I had the bad, good or bad luck, right as everything was shutting down in this COVID thing in mid-March, I had deviated septum surgery, right? On the inside, they did surgery on my nose. I was knocked out in bed for about a week. And that kind of got me on a downward spiral. I'm sure you guys would know what that's like. You get surgery or something, you get hurt, and you're in bed. And then on top of that, everything was closed. And then I had to go back to the hospital, get all the stitches and everything taken out. And I got in a funk and I felt it. And because I know what the regular lifestyle is like. So I felt really gross. And I mean, I would get winded. I'd walk down the stairs. I'd walk up the stairs. I was exhausted from being in bed and medicated after surgery. And then I didn't have a routine because everything was closed. So it took me some effort, but I had to get back into my normal eating routine. I had to get back into my normal exercising routine. But now I couldn't go run my 10, 20, 30 miles that I'll do. I had to go walk a mile. And then I had to go walk 2 miles the next day. And I had to take a day off. And then I had to go walk 3 or 4 miles. So I had to fight really hard to get back into what's normal. But that's what it is. I think if you let yourself get into a bad routine, and if you've been in this bad routine for years, it's really hard. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're in a bad routine, you're in a funk. The hardest step is the first one. So it helps to have a partner with these things. My wife and I are very active. So we've told each other, especially in this tough time of breaking all routines, our fitness center is closed, our athletic club, all our normal things are closed. So we've made a commitment that if either of us says, all right, let's go swim 20 laps in the pool, the other one has to do it. If one says, let's go run a 5K right now, the other one has to do it. If one of them says, hey, you shouldn't eat that, the other one has to do it. And that's really helped us kickstart it. So an hour ago, I was just wrapping up my 5K I ran with my wife. So those are the types of things that I think help us stay active. But by the way, I'm not saying do these things right now. This is something you should be doing, in my opinion, or that I do all the time. So that you're healthy, you're making better choices. I found that when I let myself go physically, I also let myself go mentally. I make bad business decisions. I don't have the same amount of energy. I have negative thoughts. But man, when you run or bicycle or lift weights and you do these things, you're just in a better mood. So that's what I recommend, of getting back into that routine.
Okay, great. So routine is an important factor in staying mentally sharp, staying mentally healthy. And sometimes it doesn't seem obvious, but the basics sometimes are what really pushes us beyond our limitation. That's what really, when you get back to the basics, that's what gives you that that launch, that jump, where you can actually go beyond whatever the barrier that you're facing.
Yeah. And then
go ahead.
The other thing is that this not only goes toward physical health, but for me, it's mental health as well. I read about 50 books a year. That's what the average CEO reads as well. And once I heard that number, once I read that, I make sure to hit that every year. So I personally do it through Audible and a fast speed so I can cover more books. And I do it while I run or while I bike ride. I think both of those things are important. If you can stimulate your body and your mind, especially at the same time, I don't know better use of your time. And there's a reason that most CEOs are in great shape and they also read a lot of books and eat right because it makes you perform a lot better. It makes such a difference. I've seen it in my life. I've not done it, and then I've done it for the last several years. Huge difference.
Right. Now, my next question has to do with startups. You've been a mentor for the venture mentoring group for the past 3.5 years, 4 years. And one thing that, some of the startups that we work with at Startup Broward, they've come to us uh, saying that pretty much the funding has pretty much dried up, or the whatever they were expecting, there's a holding pattern going on where they don't know for sure whether or not they're gonna get any kind of funding. Question I have for you is, how does a startup who's hurting for cash, how do they evaluate their strategic options, and what do they do to either uh, maintain the course or to adapt to the situation?
Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody's hurt for cash more than I have. When I was young, I grew up poor. Just out of high school, I had to start paying my parents $400 a month in rent. This is in the mid '90s when that was a lot of money, especially when I was making $7 an hour. So that forced me to get a second job, to start doing flea markets, to start really grinding. I did everything you could think of. Some I'm proud of, some I'm not, but I did everything I could to raise money. So I've never partnered with anyone in business. I've done joint ventures with two different companies. I've never raised money. I've bought businesses. I've spent seven figures on acquiring businesses, but it's all been out of my pocket. But see, that's easy to say, oh yeah, this guy has money, but it didn't start that way. It started by absolutely grinding, literally not watching television for years, not going out for years, not going to a movie, not going to anything. So you can say, okay, that's too harsh, but guess what? Someone else out there is doing that right now, and they're going to be your competitor. So that's a great way to weed people out. It's actually one of the reasons I've not mentored a lot of people. They're not willing to put in that really tough grind in the
Right.
beginning. And I have a passion for people who are like that. 'Cause I did it and I saw what it was like and I saw the results. So sure, money's going to be dried up. Money that would have come out of the stock market, it's going to be gone when the market, I think, gets to normal, which I think is going to be, I don't know, but 20, 25% lower. Um, so you have to go different ways. Today I had a coaching call with a client out of Texas. This client, her business is stalled right now. There's nothing going on. She just took a job to wait tables. Texas opens up this weekend and starting
Right.
Thursday next week. And she asked me, what do you think? Should I take this job? I said, yes, take the job. It's money coming in right now, right? You got to get creative and you got to get aggressive and you got to go work two full time. You got to do whatever it takes and don't count on raising money from the outside. And by the way, I have an adverse reaction to raising money all the time. People seem to talk about it as success because
Right. Right.
you convinced the person or two that they should give you money. That's this much success. The real success comes from the market when the market gets to decide if you're good or not, right? And the market doesn't care if you have a good pitch, and the market doesn't care what school you went to, and the market doesn't care about anything. The market's going to care about your quality product or service compared to the price, and that's it. So it doesn't matter if you're well funded or not, because I didn't get well funded. I had no funding. I'm the reverse. I had my parents charging me for everything. I went product that I bought for $1. I sold it for 5 or 6, and it did well. And I took those profits, I put them in my pocket, and I went and bought more stuff. And I just kept doing that. That's what I still do today.
Right.
I live on, I don't know, 10% of my earnings, if that. And I do that because I keep putting the rest toward the next investment. And you can do this at a small level, right? Make $1, turn it into $2, make $2 into 4, make 4 into 8, and go on.
Right. That's great. That's great advice. And I'm thinking that bootstrapping is really gonna take off as a means of funding startups, as a means of funding small business. Just as there is an uptick in interest in entrepreneurship that recently I've read several articles where, there is a lot of interest in entrepreneurship, e-commerce. So I think that, we're probably going to be looking at a completely different economy in the next few years.
Hmm.
And it's going to be less debt oriented and more, self-funded, more bootstrapping going on. So, and I'm really excited about that because sometimes you do need change, you
Yeah,
know. Now let's move on. There were a few things that you wanted to mention, a few strategies, a
yeah.
few things, and I would like for you to touch upon them. And then what we're gonna do in about 5 minutes, we're gonna move on to the Q&A, see if
Perfect.
anybody has questions. All right,
Perfect.
go ahead.
I'm going to share with you quickly. I wrote up a list this morning of ideas that I have. So I have a friend, he does $55 million a year. That's his average over the last 10 years. He does wholesale fragrances. And I've been telling him, he actually contracted me for a while to coach him on different things. And my biggest push was for him to go direct to consumer. He's supplying to all these Amazon sellers, e-commerce websites, and does zero direct to consumer. Um, so now today, coincidentally, he emailed me and showed me the project in his warehouse going on right now. They're photographing every item. They're building their Shopify website, and they're preparing themselves to go direct to consumer. His business of 55 million has done nothing over the last 30 to 40 days. They're shut down because they sell to stores all over the country and the stores are closed down. So what a great opportunity. I think he's going to find this as a blessing. Yes, he's going to lose 10 million's worth of sales over the next last month or two or three, but this is going to turn his business around. It's forcing him to go direct to consumer, way bigger margins, way bigger cash flow, right? So I thought that was inspiring to see that. Good, he's taking a horrible opportunity, he's making the best of it and going direct to consumer. A couple more thoughts. I've got a lot of friends and clients as well in my consulting business that are cutting costs. I've been preaching cutting costs for decades. It's how I built my business, keeping costs really low. But because they're doing this, they're starting to see new light. They're saying, wait a minute, I was paying for this. I was paying for all these things. I never needed them. I happen to think you should do that. Even if sales are 100 million, you should be cutting costs. If they're 1 million, you should be cutting costs. If they're $10,000 a year, cut costs, because all that extra money, you get to reinvest it for more growth. Imagine that we just talked about bootstrapping. Imagine that you're wasting all this money and then a year or two passes and you say, oh man, if only I had an extra 50,000. Well, guess what? You did. You blew it to all these other people. Get it back. You can't get it back, so don't do it going forward. Um, Another thing, let's see. I already touched on it, self-improvement and exercise. Um, for some people, and I've been in those situations, I got hit hard in real estate in 2008. Sometimes it's really tough, but you got to make this decision to not reach for a Band-Aid. You got to reach for a tourniquet. You got to cut off the arm. You got to cut off the foot, whatever it is. Don't let the bleeding continue. If you think your business is going to be hit for a while, I'd look at that and not just keep money going out. Start cutting costs wherever necessary because the new economy, and by the way, people have short memories. I've been planning for this since 2008 where I got hit hard and got up to $1 million net worth. I thought I was the man and it went to negative net worth. I lost everything I had. It was all real estate back then. So I've been preparing for this and I think people should be cutting off expenses to get ready. And also,
Right.
a friend of mine told me today that this is going to be called the Great Separation. It's like the Great Depression. This is the Great Separation because the new reality is going to be low-touch businesses, right? So be equipped and start getting ready for this world. Zoom and there will be other things, but if I have a friend who had to close his business, ticket office, a ticket business like Ticketmaster, a smaller version of Ticketmaster, that's going to suffer, right? Who's going to go to big concerts over the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months? I think it's going to be a while before people start going to really big venues. Okay, so those are some things. Now I'm going to just shoot out some things that I had. You got to think outside the box. My factory in Colombia got closed down, and that's where all of our products come from, what we manufacture on our brands. I was really slow to come up with this, but after like a week and listening to different people, I found out that I could open my factory back up if I started making masks for consumption of the local market in Colombia. We got an application in with the government, got approved within a day, started the mask production, makes us no money. I've given away thousands of masks personally through my business, all of that, but it opened the factory up and it got our production of underwear, swimsuit, athletic apparel underway. Because legally we're now allowed to export from Colombia and import into the US because we're an approved mask vendor. And we are, we've made 30,000 masks, made no money off of them, but it doesn't matter because we had to adapt and pivot. Now we got our production underway. A lot of our competitors, they're not producing. They're selling their old stuff. We're kind of celebrating that because that might hit them economically enough where we can acquire them over the next few months. But you got to think differently.
Right.
And let's see, a couple more things. Another thing we've done that's kind of different, we're not suffering, we're doing fine. Our employees are doing fine, but we've given COVID-19 bonuses on the last paycheck. Just gave everybody bonuses because some of them may be hurting not from their income, because their income's fine with us. Their spouse might be hurting. You know, I've heard a few things like that from them. So we have the money and we want to make them happy, and they're amazing people because we don't have one bad employee. We fire the bad ones and promote the good ones. So we've given them those bonuses. And the last thing is we've been planning, my wife and I, we don't know the date yet, for a really big party. We love throwing big parties, and for family, friends, employees, because we want to just look at the positive side. When this is all over, we want to celebrate and get together with people.
Right. This is great. Thank you so much for sharing, your knowledge, the information, taking the time to actually make that list. And I wanted to point out something to you because there's something we didn't discuss as a coping strategy. And if you look up, you'll see there is a lifesaver up there. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah.
You signed it.
Yeah.
Up there. You see that lifesaver?
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
Okay, so that's from all the startup weekends that I've been doing, and the whole thing was the concept behind it was we're helping save people from themselves, from their fear. They're afraid of starting a business. We're your lifesaver. Now, here's the cool thing about it. The majority of the people that are part of this event are people that signed this lifesaver. And what I'm talking about is community. Okay, having a community around you that you can rely upon. Being able for me to be able to reach out to you and say, hey, Joe, do you have the time to do a presentation because our community is hurting? There are a lot of people that are either distracted or in distress. What can you do to help out? And within 5 minutes, yes, I'm there. That's being able to reach out to a community. First of all, you have to build that community. But once that community is there, that community can give back to you as well. And this is what's going on right now, where we're pretty much connected and we're able to share insights, tips. That thing about you being able to open your factory in Colombia, that's an amazing tip because pretty much you're able to turn adversity into an advantage.
Yeah.
Because A, you're providing masks to the community that are needed, but B, you're getting an advantage. You're pretty much getting a head start over your competition where you can turn around and say, hey, now I'm ready to acquire you because I was able to make money where you weren't.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of attitude that really moves you forward in times of adversity and distress, where you look beyond what's in front of you and you look for opportunities, and you actually, if none are there, you create your own opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the story of my life. And that's what happened with starting
Exactly.
with nothing. There was never an opportunity handed to me. I had to keep digging and look for ideas.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Joel. Let's start with the Q&A. We're going to open it up. So if you have any questions, specific questions for Joel, just type them in the messaging, the chat box, and then we'll have Joe answer them.
See who's the fastest typer.
If not, then I'll start singing.
Oh, please ask anything. My favorite color. Anyway. I think I put him to sleep.
Oh, there goes Pedro. Pedro also signed that. He also signed the lifesaver. So he's saying, what is your current immediate need in business?
Yeah. When things are going well, you can get complacent. So right now we're so thrilled with our sales over the last 2 months that
Right.
we're still kind of celebrating a little bit. But we do have like a to-do list with our developers, with our vendors that manufacture in our factory. That's a good question. The most immediate need, for one thing, and I coach this with business owners too, I kind of plan things out, so I'm never scrambling. In the beginning, when I started my business, and probably for the first 10 years, I was scrambling. I would have been able to answer that question. I would have been able to tell you the next thing, the next thing, but we've got it all scheduled. Like, and I'm the CEO, I own the business, but I'm not there. I go there maybe once a month. I have a few calls a week. I do a few emails. So I'm not in the day-to-day every minute now. So my senior vice president would be able to answer this very well. But I'm trying to think the most pressing things that we need. The things we need, we go get them and we do them. So I wish I could answer this a little bit better. We always need more customers, but that's more of a want. We're fine, but we want more customers and we want continued growth. I guess, what, I'll tell you what, I do have an answer. We need more acquisitions. We are looking, I have put every feeler that you can imagine out there to acquire more e-commerce companies, whether they're in our business, in our apparel, our space, or anything. We're looking to acquire more e-commerce business because there's something about having the location, the staff, the technology, and then just having this volume. But if you double the volume, it becomes way more profitable. So yeah, we're looking for acquisitions. It's really what I focus the most on right now. I hope that helps, Pedro.
Great. So as people are pretty much shutting down and their businesses are in a tailspin, you're actually looking to acquire them. So you're turning, again, that adversity into an advantage. You're turning it into an opportunity for yourself.
Yeah,
So
and by the way, it's not that I don't wish bad on anyone. I want to be clear. I don't wish for anybody's business to be hurting. But if it does, I want to be there to pick up the pieces. And by the way, this is a free market. These businesses try to sell. I just happen to be the top bidder on 10 of them so far.
Great. So let's move on to Karina's question. Karina, how do you face the decision of closing businesses that are doing okay, but I guess not great, to make room for new opportunities that may have more potential on a grander scale?
It's a good question. I made one of the hardest decisions of my life in 2008, 2009, when the market crashed. I kept paying mortgage, property taxes, homeowners associations on 5 empty homes until it drained me and I had no more cash. So that business, I had to make the decision to let it go and walk away from 5 properties. Toughest thing I ever did, because it took all that work. It took about 15 years of working and saving to buy all those properties. But the market crashed and I couldn't do anything. Tough situation. But Karina, hopefully it's okay to have multiple businesses. It's okay to have multiple streams of income. I think the key is, if your time is limited and you can only focus on 1 or on 2, you do what's best for you. It doesn't matter. And here, by the way, here's something I hear a lot, where people will, whether they voice this or not, they're going to think, well, what are people going to think? What are my friends? I was in this okay business and now I'm taking this risky. None of that matters. It's what you think, Karina. It's whatever's in the best for you. You know what's good for you. I would just look at you got to strategize a little bit, and you got to talk to people who've been there and share, and they can share what they think. You don't have to do this alone. I've always said that entrepreneurship is one of the loneliest places on this earth, because they didn't have organizations like this. When I was starting out, I was on my own. Nobody even knew what the word entrepreneur was back in the 80s and 90s when I was grinding. So my suggestion is, talk to some people who've been through some things, who've done this. You should never talk to your peers if they haven't been to it. You talk to people who've been there. So you want to get here, then talk to the people who are there, so they can guide you along the way. But it may require making some tough decisions and taking a step back sometimes, so that later you can take 2 steps forward. And yeah, you may have to close something down to go do the other thing, but think about how things are going to go now, and see if you're going to pivot, is it because that's the new reality and this is going to help me in the new future?
All right. Karina says, excellent. Thanks. From Guillaume, G, what are the top 3 things you would do to launch an online B2C subscription service for health product? Hey, that's my idea, G. Why are you putting it out there like that?
Well, let's see. I've never been in the subscription business or health, but I'll tell you what's worked a lot for us. We are big advocates of email. So you got to build the list. You got to start getting customers, obviously. Otherwise, how do you get going? That's a chicken or the egg. But we are very strong on email. We email our clients 5 to 7 times a week, depending on the website that we're on. We have 11 different Shopify Plus sites. So email has been phenomenal for us to stay top of mind, to hit people with different things. We put them through a flow. We use Klaviyo for emails, and that has been phenomenal. Once you build out the flow, you know, they haven't been active in a while. They need to be reminded. That, you know, whatever it is. I do have a few friends in the subscription business with hundreds of thousands of clients, and I know it's important to measure the lifetime value and also when the drop-off point is. So I have a friend with a very successful subscription box business to females, to young females. And he knows that his drop-off is, I think, between month 5 and 6. So guess what happens month 5? They get this special thing out of the blue, thanking them for being a client with a beautiful gift. And then the people get a little warm-hearted and they don't want to drop off. And it's immediately improved the drop-off to like 8 months. So by sending this $5 gift, you've just extended a $30 box 2 more months or 3 more months, right? So it's gauging little things like that. Another thing that we do, I don't know, in subscription it could be different. We do really well with SMS texting and staying in touch with our customers. They have to opt in. We have over 100,000 text numbers, but we just started a few months ago with SMS texting. You couldn't just throw them all in there. They have to opt in, double opt in through the text and all that sort of thing. Those are some things. I guess there's a lot. And, you know, again, I'm not an expert on subscription business and health products. I could help, but that'd be more of a conversation. It's hard to just throw out the answer.
Yeah, G did it on purpose because that's part of when we talked about the 4-hour work week. That's part of my background because I was in a health because that's one of the ways. You know, I did e-commerce, and that's one of the ways I was able to free up my time. So actually, G just sent a link to Klaviyo. So for anybody that's interested, and thank you so much, G. That Startup Grind, these guys are amazing. G is there supporting. G is with Startup Grind. Next question is from Pedro. What is your diversification strategy?
Yeah, so we've been a little bit heavy in apparel, direct to consumer. But we diversified the day that we went from being wholesalers to acquiring our first customer's website. So we were wholesaling to this company in Tampa, Florida for 9 years, built a phenomenal relationship with them. And then when they were in a situation to sell, they came and talked to me first, and we worked something out and bought them. For me, that was diversification. Same product, but I was selling to stores. Guess what's happened to stores, especially right now? They're all shut down. Doesn't affect us because we're now 5% wholesale and 95% direct to consumer. We were 100% wholesale. So the moment we did that and went direct to consumer, we own the customer, we control what they see, we put it first. You know, we sell Calvin Klein, but that's not where we promote the most. We promote our brand. So that's enabled us. And then the other thing is you have to specialize in order to build wealth. You have to get into something and become an expert at it and really grow it. But once you start building that wealth, then you diversify. That's when you know, so I'm invested in the stock market. I'm invested in commercial and residential real estate. I have a fulfillment business for e-commerce websites. So I've diversified over the years into multiple things, investing into different businesses. So that's my strategy. Specialize and put your head down, laser focus to build the wealth. And as you start creating that wealth, start diversifying.
All right, perfect. So let me make sure that I'm covering all the questions. Okay, so the next question is from Aaron. Hey, Aaron, Startup Weekend alumni. Greetings, gentlemen. I would like to know what are your most used or recommended tools you use for your day-to-day apps, software, devices?
Okay. I'll tell you personally, because, you know, there's a bunch of apps out there and you can join groups on Facebook to talk details and technical things. That's not my field. I have people who do that for me. I have 6 engineers full-time that work for us. But I'll tell you personally, I cannot live without my calendar. My Google Calendar, a free tool on my phone, runs my life. And I connect that with Calendly. And whenever people want to set up a coaching call with me or whatever it is, they set up that through my calendar. I give them I don't know, 9 to 5 or whatever my open time slots are. And I check my calendar about 20 times a day because that's where it runs my life. And the way I see it is people always say there's not enough time in the day, not enough time in the week. For me, it works perfectly. It's all planned. So at 9 o'clock tomorrow, I have this call. At 9:30, I have this other thing. from, I don't know, 10 to 12, I blocked it off so I can go to the park with my kids. Whatever it is, I live my life that way. And at the end of the day, I wasn't busy, but I was super productive because I got everything done that I planned. Unless there's a life emergency happening, I'm going to do whatever's in my calendar. And those emergencies come up maybe once a year. So no excuse. I stick to my calendar. At the end of the year, you do that, your productivity is through the roof compared to the average person that's running around trying to figure it out every day.
Right, right. And it doesn't have to be an expensive tool. That's what I like about your recommendation. It's about productivity. It's about what you get out of it, not necessarily how much you pay for it.
Yeah.
So, are there any other
Oh,
apps, any things?
having said that, we spend over $7,000 a year between all the things, I'm sorry, a month, between all the things that we have, whether it's loyalty points apps on websites and SMS texting and all the, all the apps and tools and things that are plugged into our website. But to be honest, I'd have to ask my senior vice president to give you that list. I don't know what they all are anymore because I don't remember them and I don't deal with it every single day.
Right, right. That's Tim Ferriss being, what is it, information diet.
Yeah, I don't want to hear everything. Just like I don't want to be reported on all the problems. I want a problem and then a suggestion. Not the solution, but just give me some suggestions so I can make an easier decision.
Perfect, perfect. So next question from Vanessa. What is your recommendation for people that want to start a business in this, hold on.
This time?
Uh, yeah, in
Yeah, in
this
this
time.
time, I see it. Yeah, it's not a bad time to start a business. So many big companies, I said it earlier, so many big companies are set up. Look, I'll give you an example. I got to meet one of the founders of Netflix. Not what's his name, Hastings, but the other one, Randolph. There were two partners, and he got bought out. He's a billionaire now. But we had a lunch. We brought him in here to Miami and met with him. And they started this business that was this big, and they thought it was worth like 10 million, and they wanted Blockbuster to buy them, right?
Yep.
And they toppled Blockbuster. That's the same as starting a business at this time. How do you go up against this massive monster and beat them? Well, in that lunch, he told us something phenomenal. He said, we didn't have to take 100% of their business. Shoot, we didn't even have to take 50% of their business. We had to take 7% of their business. When we took 7%, it toppled them because they were built for such massive scale that when we took their 7% of good customers, the best customers, the ones who were getting clobbered with late fees, we took those away. They weren't profitable anymore. It was those top 7% of customers that were doing it for them. The rest were just helping pay the bills. So think of it that way. You're small, but you have a small infrastructure. You're small, but you don't have a big payroll. So by being small, you can be nimble and you can be quick and you can make changes and see what the market wants. I have a friend who has a marketing company. I think he does about 20 to 25 million a year. He's crushing it right now, selling hand sanitizer, masks to hospitals, and all those sort of PPE products, the gloves and all that stuff. He wasn't in that business, but he quickly jumped in it. He'll make 5 cents a mask, but he'll sell a container full at a time, and he just pivoted into an opportunity. But even that person, he started with money. That could be done through a partnership or just something. You can broker some deals, and you can build stuff in this time. Don't let the time scare you away. It's scaring away your competitors, so take advantage of it.
Right, right. And that another great example is Airbnb. A lot of people say, well, they started during the economic downturn, but what most people don't realize is probably the economic downturn helped them out because there is so many people hurting for money when they started that they were willing to let a stranger in their house
Yeah,
just to make a little bit more money.
that's
So
right.
sometimes what you see as a barrier could be an advantage for you,
Yeah,
a strategic advantage because it gives you an opportunity as a small guy to capture market share that the big guy can no longer retain.
that's
So
right.
let's move on to the next question. Um, Actually, if you want to read it, because I have to
Yeah, I can
switch.
see it. Nelly Tejeda, what skill in this adapting economy should be acquired through education? Perfect. I'm a proponent of education, but not of the school system. I'm a proponent of learning on your own as much as you can because the information's all out there. You could learn from a Harvard professor right now for free. You don't have to go to wherever you live. You don't have to. You're not stuck with that professor. What if you live in the area with the worst marketing professor? That doesn't matter. You can go listen to everything on YouTube for free. And to me, I'd rather hire somebody who has learned a lot on their own than someone with all these letters after their name and graduated from all these schools. That doesn't matter to me. Absolutely. In my business, we encourage people to learn things like Lean Six Sigma, and we pay for it after they pass it. Excel. You can go on Udemy, I think UED, or something like that, Udemy, and take classes there for $15, $20, $30 and become a master at Excel, just as an example. And I mean, there's classes, $20, and you'll take a class on how to be a master listener, how to connect with people. There's classes on all of this stuff. And it doesn't just have to be through this time, because it's an adapting economy, like you say, Nelly. It's a good point, but I think you could do those things all the time. Like I said earlier, I'll listen to 50 books a year. They're all business books. These aren't romance novels. Nothing wrong with them, but they're not my thing. I just want self-improvement and business books. And I listen to those while I run. And I don't care what economy we're in. I want to improve every single day, because if I'm here today and I get here tomorrow, I'm super excited. But if I'm here tomorrow, I get depressed. I need to be constantly improving and becoming better. So glad you brought that up. Education is extremely important, but it doesn't have to be in a classroom. Let's see.
Right.
Other questions?
So,
Lisa Arnold? Right.
Lessa, yeah. So thank you for the interesting insights, Joe. Can you talk more about that great separation you mentioned?
Yeah. So who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. No one does. There's going to be 1,000 people prognosticating and guessing what's going to happen over the next year or two. Some are going to be right. Most are going to be wrong. But the reason I said that the great separation is that something's going to happen. A really good mentor that I've had is one of the most amazing people in this world. His name's Warren Rustand. He thinks something pretty bad's going to happen, like similar to the Great Depression and massive unemployment. You can focus on that and think it's all gone to hell and, hey, why is it even worth trying? Or you could just realize this is just the great separation. That's the kind of market we're going to be in. E-commerce is extremely important right now. I don't see boutiques open. They're all closed, right? The only things that are open are grocery stores and things like that. And even that, they're separating people. There's less people going into the stores. I think of it right now. I'm a big spender. But today I came back from that run and there were 3 boxes in my garage, 3 big boxes, and a bunch of so a bunch of stuff we bought. I just bought my kids a really nice telescope so we can start looking at the stars. I would have never bought that before because we were busy in the day-to-day. So it's all going through e-commerce, right? That's the separation I'm talking about. And I'm not saying, oh, go jump in and now just go buy gloves and masks and there's your business. You got to be careful with that. The market might get saturated, but just start thinking along those lines. It might not be the best time to have an event center and a banquet hall. Those type of things might start getting reduced. So just look for opportunities that might take into consideration what's going to happen over the next couple of years.
Great. Next question, a book recommendation to read in this time of changes, Joe?
Yeah. So I won't say any specific for right now. I'm going to tell you what I have a typical list of top things to read. The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, Australian author. Phenomenal. The day I read that, I went from maybe making $50,000 at the time to getting up over 7 figures. And I credit most of it to that book. It's what sparked that different way of thinking and being really positive and on a different trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1. And number 2 is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie from the 1930s. The day I read that book, around 2003, I was reading it. And I called my dad and I go, Dad, I'm reading the most amazing book. I thought I was onto something that I discovered on my own. I told my dad, he goes, oh, I read that in the 60s. So yeah, classic book, always a top seller. And now I have another one that I really, really liked, but you've got to listen to the Audible version of it because it comes with a podcast. In between chapters, they're interviewing the author, and it's David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me, former Navy SEAL. Phenomenal guy. You listen to that book, and then come to me and give me any excuses you got, and I'm going to make fun of you because if that guy who went through hell as a kid and had the worst life and went through Navy SEAL training multiple times because he got hurt and all this stuff, and he made it, and he did okay, and he had a really rough upbringing. So with my coaching clients, I make them all read that when we start working together so that I can always, when I hear an excuse, I go, wait a minute. Remember David Goggins when he went through this, this, and this? You want to think that through again? And then they go, oh, yeah, you're right. And they gear it up. So those are 3 books that I think are a good start.
All right. Next question. Were there any of your growth periods where you had a coach or a mentor?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've hired coaches for years. I wish I would have hired them sooner because things started clicking. You know, the teacher appears when the student's ready. I could tell you something right now, and a lot of you will think I'm crazy. You'll think, oh, this guy's full of crap. And then a situation in your life will happen, and you're going to go, ah, that guy that Mark interviewed, he was right. This applies to this. It's when you're ready. So my recommendations, I spend 30 to 40,000 a year on self-improvement, coaches, retreats, uh, books, anything, a massage, everything that's good for my mind and body. And I highly recommend doing those things. But every coach is not the right one. Here's the crazy part. This coach might be perfect for that person, but horrible for you. So there has to be this chemistry. There has to be this understanding, some things in common possibly, to make sure that you get that right person in your life that's going to help guide you.
Great, great. Actually, let me talk a little bit about that because one thing that I've started, well, I didn't start it, but I kind of like, adapted it to my needs, is that I have a little program with my friends that I call the Accountability Partners program. So what we do is, and there's several of them here, so I won't put them on the spot. But what we do is, we have all our different goals,
Mm-hmm.
and we use an Asana board, and then we have
Oh,
regular calls where and it's not about somebody just harping on you, or just like making you feel bad, but it's
mm-hmm.
about you facing yourself, because it's easy for me to lie to myself. But
Mm-hmm.
if I have to tell someone else, this is what I plan on doing this week, and I never even touch it because I got distracted or whatever, then I'm forced to face my own excuses,
Yeah.
you know. And I'm pretty sure they're just laughing their heads off right now because they're like, yeah, yeah, he's been asking for extensions and all this. And the amazing thing is that because it's a two-way street. So I'm their accountability partner. The reason why I have multiple is because I don't want to overwhelm anyone with all of my problems or all of my plans. So I have different accountability partners for different things. But the amazing thing and that's really exciting is that I see them doing so well that it excites me. It encourages me. So,
Of course.
that's one thing that, that's part of mentorship and coaching where, it can help. Again, it's all about community,
Hmm.
So
Absolutely. Accountability, I've noticed with the majority of my coaching clients, is the number one thing they want from me. And I hold them
right,
accountable to the point, and I think an Asana board is fantastic. We use that in our business. But what I do is anytime they tell me they're going to accomplish something,
right.
I don't care about the words. I care about the action. So I go, what are you going to do to accomplish that? This, and this. Perfect. When are you going to
Yes.
do all those by? By
Yeah.
this day, this day. So as we're talking, I put it in my calendar and I invite them. And then I'm going to check in with them on that day. And man, they
Yeah.
know I'm going to check in with them. They know they're going to hear from me that day, and I'm encouraging and I'm going to help them. But here's the difference: you do that for a year. You imagine it's like having
Exactly.
a trainer helping you for a
Right.
year of that. You look back and you go, the year passed, but I accomplished all of this. But when I did it on my own, I would have done this. Because by the way, it happens to me. I have a personal coach to help me with weightlifting, for example. And I know for a fact that if I go to the gym, I'm going to lift so much. And then I'm going to say, that's enough. That's enough. I feel good. That's enough. But guess what my
Right.
coach says? Give me three more.
Right.
Man, that three more at the end of a year, you keep doing that, you're now benching 300 pounds, not 250. It makes this big
Right.
difference just because of this little thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's 7:30. I want to thank you so much, Joel. You are an amazing guy, and you've always been there for me. And hopefully I can be there for you as well. And, if you want to make any announcements, anything that you would like to finish this session with, go ahead.
Sure, just you can look me up online. I'm very approachable. My name's Joel Gandara, so it's YouTube/Joel Gandara or joelgandara.com, or look me up on social media.
Thank you so much. And I also want to thank Startup Grind and Guillaume, because, these guys are also amazing. G is in South Africa, so he's probably like, 1 in the morning, but he's there
Yeah.
supporting. And that's the kind of community that we have. Startup Grind, great community. Thank you so much. And yeah, let's clap for Joe. I can't clap because I'm holding the phone with my hand. But thank
I'll
you so
clap.
much. And Okay, clap for me, baby.
All right,
Gee, I
thanks,
got that
Mark.
video for you. So hopefully we can get the video from Guillaume, and then we'll post it online because I want more people to, you know, get those insights. And right now I feel so motivated. This is amazing, and this is what I need. That breath of fresh air that makes me want to just look beyond my obstacles and just go for the goal.
Yeah, it's all here.
All right.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
G. Bye, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank
Nice
you
to
very
talk
much,
to you.
guys, for joining us, and then we'll stay in touch.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.